Like a recent Harvard research found out that like change actually happens in countries where at least 3.5% of the population care or like speak up.
Okay.
Every single like revolution, like big changes, maybe not revolution, but like democratic transition.
Hi Weeboos, welcome back to the WIUI podcast. So, 2024 election, right? So many anxiety and so many uncertainties. And that's why in this episode, actually, we would like to talk about something that we recently launched, which is our initiative called Bijak Memilih. So, welcome guys to the podcast. We want to talk about our awesome initiative here.
Self-proclaimed awesome initiative.
Awesome. Hopefully it'll be awesome. So the aim for Bijak Memilih, we want to help inform voters so that they can choose wisely, like the name.
Exactly.
Bijak Memilih.
Yeah.
So maybe
it's also a wordplay to policy, because in Indonesian policy translates as kebijakan.
Yes.
Wait, I just know this.
You just knew this. Abby, we launched this thing already.
I know, but anyway. So I think as a person who knows best about Bijak Memilih, it seems, can you explain maybe what is? Yeah.
It's so basically a platform. It's a website where anyone hopefully can go on the website and find out information that's relevant to them before they decide to vote. So you can find information on what issues should I care about, and once you care about that issue, which parties have been voting, whose votes are more aligned with my position, and therefore how should I be thinking about which parties I should vote, or even later the presidential candidates.
Yep, because actually the information are already out there, but it's like very sporadic, and it's like everywhere. So we try to like repackaged it to be able to be digestible, easier, and as like a one-stop shop kind of thing.
Correct.
When you want to like look for the candidates or political party that
so
align.
You want to filter out the noise, basically.
Filter out the noise,
so you focus on what matters.
Yes. Yeah, actually, besides that, the other key word actually is the awareness. So when we are aware to choose someone, then we will have a better leaders in Indonesia.
Right.
So when the young generation of Indonesia, we don't aware, like we just choose, I don't know,
whatever.
randomly.
Cakep nih saya pilih.
I think this is good looking, so I will choose this guy.
Which happens a lot actually, right?
Yes. That's why this movement actually want to make this awareness become the main, I don't know, criteria among the young generation in Indonesia. So.
Yep. So we should go back to the beginning.
Sure.
Yes.
Talk about when did we start to care, right? Because I think none of us are like, we are born caring about politics. We learn that along the way, or maybe somebody is born.
No.
I don't think so. No.
Maybe
Not
like quick
really.
question: when was your first election?
Yes.
Was it 2009?
Long
14?
time ago.
Ini agak cek umur.
Then you are too old. I think it was 1940.
Because I don't think I think my first election was supposed to be 2009, which was when I just graduated from high school. So I can say for sure that I didn't care back then. Like my first election, 2009, I wasn't aware of it's alright, like I'll vote because it seems like it matters, but I wasn't too much into finding out more about how I should vote. But I think 2014 was the first time I thoughtfully, vote.
I don't remember.
Yeah.
Like,
Don't say this is your first election. Enggak.
No, wait, do you mean like the first election that I participated in?
Yeah.
Oh, the first election that I participated in was actually kind of like, it was like 2014
lah.
No. Okay, this is how bad it is. Okay, this is how bad it is, because back then I don't care.
Right.
So that's why like
And that's all right.
And
Yeah,
I think
that's
my first
True.
election, I wasn't really invested. So I was like one of those that was like
Yeah.
went there because my parents went there. I was just like, I don't know, this person looks decent. I just like choose.
But
And I don't remember.
Yeah, I remember it was, I think, 2009. I just back then, the SBY, right? The SBY era. So I just because I think this guy is wise, sabar. So I think he is a nice guy. So we don't really have the background. What is the vision? No, just from the looking. I think this guy I think is a nice guy. So we choose it.
Yeah, I think so. Then in my case, I first cared in 2014, and that was
Yes.
after basic. So I went to
2014,
I went to the political science department actually. So I should care, right? I went and studied international relations. So I studied about Indonesia's political system and like how policies being made, especially foreign policy, but policy more broadly. And I started thinking, ternyata turns out this is quite important.
Yes.
Like the decisions that are being made by the politicians affect us in many different ways. And I couldn't once I understood, it's really hard to look away.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
exactly.
Yes,
I think
same with me. I think 2014 is it quite, I don't know, it's quite sharp, right? Back then
2014 was like between
when Prabowo versus Jokowi.
Yeah.
It's really I remember it's really sharp and really we divided by two
very
groups,
polarized.
right?
Yeah.
Even back then I don't know who to choose until really the last minute. really until the last minute. Because we don't have enough information, right?
Yeah, I think 2014 was the election that I started to care to. Maybe
Okay.
What's the
Is it-
story?
maybe because I think social media actually plays a huge role in
Yes,
that,
I
because
think
I think it was the very
the
first
beginning of the social media
campaigns
campaign,
where like social
yes.
media plays a huge role. Therefore, like
Yeah.
it actually I've become more aware of it, and of course because like the two political party that was the two
true.
figure that was running was
Yeah.
very distinct, like you said.
Yeah.
So it's like almost comically distinct that made it very interesting, I guess. But even then, I'm still like, oh yeah, that's pretty cool. But I didn't really care still.
Yeah.
I think I started to really care was very late. I think it was like 2019, 2020. But it was during the huge demonstration in 2019, the
Right.
Yeah,
Reformasi
yeah,
di Korupsi.
yes,
I think like
yes,
what you
true.
mentioned, right? Like the moment that you become aware that the political decisions that are being made by those leaders actually affect us in a very real way, that's when you start to care. And especially when you realize like what it means to live in a democracy in which you can vote
Yeah.
whoever to become your leader. So in 2019, the demonstration, the things that are being demonstrated and stuff that are being protested was very real and very close
Right.
Yeah.
to like our daily life. Things like corruption, and then the RUU PKS, which deals with
Yeah.
sexual
Yeah.
violence and stuff like
Yeah.
that.
And the
So
criminal law.
which applies to everyone and has a lot of like articles that limits freedom of speech, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so that was like that's when I realized that this is important, and therefore it's important who you vote, because who you vote will make those laws, will make those regulation, which will regulate your life.
Yeah. And this was the origin story of WIUI as well.
Yeah. Yep, absolutely. But
Yeah.
I think I've repeat that so many times.
So you think people will already know?
Yeah, but
Yeah.
because of that, and then I realized a lot of my peers who came from quote unquote like a more privileged background, who grew up going to school in an international school, goes to study abroad. A lot of them are unaware about the political occurrences that happen in Indonesia, but they're very aware of the things that are happening in, for example, American politics,
Yes.
which
Very
I think is
fluent
very
in
fluent, and they
talking
lend their voices
Yeah.
to speak out about those topics, right? Which is fine, But I mean, it's just very ironic that you exclusively talk about or care about the political happening of like a country that's like
Other
halfway
countries,
across the
yeah.
globe,
But
whereas
not your country.
you're very ignorant to the one here. And so that's why I made WIUI
Right.
to help educate my peers. Basically, that's how it started with me and Faye, right?
Yeah. Yeah, in my case, it was, and I told I mean, we talked about this before, but a book. It started with a book, and it's a fiction actually. There's this tetralogy, one of the most maybe famous literatures in Indonesia, the tetralogy Pulau Buru. One of the books, Anak Semua Bangsa or Child of All Nations, talked about how the main character Minke started growing awareness about being a nation. Basically, what does it mean to be? At that time, there's no like Indonesia, but like to be your own person and to think about what language, why are you being perceived a certain way if you speak a certain language, and the other way, why are there these different socioeconomic classes and so on, and how, to me, the keyword there is kaum terpelajar, or like the educated generation has the responsibility to self-organize and berhimpun ya bahasa, and like to convene together and try to shape the future of the nation, basically, right? So I think the way that fiction stories let you into the heads of the characters allowed me to really live, because it's a historical fiction, like it's a fiction based on real history. It lets me into the heads of the people who might be living in that awakening period in Indonesia, periode kebangkitan bangsa gitu kan. And that made me think about how, like this is what it means to be a nation, and like why aren't more people thinking about how, especially the educated angkatan terpelajar ini has more responsibility, because you have the privilege of going to good schools, you have the privilege of having the knowledge to change things, and that's when I think like slowly it grows and hooked me to read more about history, because before, like everyone else who studied PPKN and sejarah in Indonesia, you only know the surface, and it's really difficult to care when you were supposed to just remember the dates and like all of that, right? Yeah, but once you think about the story and like the meaning, the value of being an Indonesian, of being a bangsa, of being a nation, right? It's just so difficult to stop caring. Like you just end up, I have this responsibility to help shape the future of my own nation, gitu.
Yeah, I think I agree on it. I remember, I think it was a sentence in that book when Minke talked. I think Minke has a best friend of the European, right?
Yes.
And then he talked about the Indonesia, and he said like, back then Minke still, I don't care about Indonesia. I just want to be European. Then the European, the best friend, the European said that, okay, if you as the Indonesian don't care about your country, then who else? You think us European will care about you? Then this sentence, the same with Afu. This sentence really go deep into my heart and my thought that so then me as the educated Indonesian, and who knows about the movement, who knows about the freedom, then we need to educate the other Indonesian. And now back to this context about the Bijak Memilih, then if we, the educated, we don't choose wisely, and we are not aware of who to be chosen and why we choose them, then who else we care?
Yeah, and I think about the kelompok terpelajar, or those who are privileged to be able to have education. I think those who are privileged to have education are also privileged to have the luxury of time to study. Because I know like we often, like there's always a growing sentiment like, we need to educate ourselves, we need to be informed, but we have to be realistic in knowing and realizing that not everyone has the luxury of time to do research, to learn, and to like properly saw through like so many different information. A lot of people they need to care about like what they'll eat tomorrow or what work they need to do, right? And so I think definitely as like, if we have the luxury of education and time, we do have the responsibility.
I think education, and also, I don't know, maybe we can call enlightened. Like, maybe we are educated, we know the information, but we are not enlightened, we are not, we are not moved to make it, to spread to the other people.
Exactly, and I think that's also like, it relates to like WIUI, and how I think it's very ironic that a lot of the most oblivious and ignorant young people in Indonesia are the ones that are the most privileged. And it's ironic because
they're supposed to be the one
because if they speak up, their voice will be more amplified. They can they can enter rooms and meetings and people that most people don't have access to. And not only that, I think also Oh, I lost my train of thought.
Yeah, no, but I get
But
it.
yeah.
Yes, people who are like, it's those people who actually have the biggest forces to
Right.
to change things.
I
and
was about
yet-
to say, but it's ironic because sometimes those privilege acts as a barrier in Indonesia for them to understand because if they're educated abroad, for example, they're
Right.
highly educated, but they're not used to like speaking the language
Yes.
of their own country, which I
Yeah.
think dates back to colonialism and stuff.
But actually, the good news is we don't need too many people who are so-called enlightened. If you read the history, actually, in 28 October, Sumpah Pemuda, there are not too many.
Right.
I think just a couple of I don't know, young generation who care about the nation,
Right.
and then it can make a movement.
Yeah.
So
3.5% actually is the number that
Yeah.
like a recent Harvard research found out that like change actually happens in countries where at least 3.5% of the population care or like
Oh.
speak up.
okay.
Every single like revolution, like big changes, maybe not revolution, but like democratic
Right.
transition.
Democratic.
But just to circle back to this, like the privileged few who studied abroad and have access to education. If you really think about it, like this whole kebangkitan bangsa, right? The awakening period, the Sumpah
Yeah.
Pemuda. Those are like some of the people who went to really good
Abroad,
schools
yeah.
here, like Sofia, but also like who went abroad to the Netherlands and like have this new big ideas. All these like founding fathers are those with access to knowledge. But maybe that's it. Like the main difference is that they're grounded and they're connected to the problems of their nation at home.
Exactly, yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
what we're trying to bridge here, right? Through Bijak
Yeah.
Memilih and more. And last time, the enlightened or like educated few had free time. Indonesia got independent. You know that
Yeah.
story, right? Like during the revolutionary
Yes.
period, it was like during the Japanese, so during the Dutch occupation, a bunch of these like doctors, the educated Indonesian who went to Stovia, they work and so on. But when the Japanese took over, they put them in like as armies, as tentara di peta-peta
Okay.
ini, right?
Yeah,
And they
yeah.
ended up, they are idle. Like they have all these like big ideas. They're so smart, and they didn't have anything to do basically. And they started thinking, oh, maybe we deserve an independence. Maybe we should be our own nation and like think about. So
That's what we do
just
today.
think
That's an
about
interesting
Let's
way to
make our
put it.
nation independent.
So like think
Yeah.
about, so Benedict Anderson, History of Java 1940-1945. Like this book talks specifically about this, and just think if we don't have social media, like if we have so much like idle time, and
Right.
just like gathered and like think about solution on what to do, maybe big changes can take place. Anyway.
And another thing I think that underlies why we decided to make Bijak Memilih is the nature of the political discourse or the political campaign in this country, right? It's usually very, very figure-centric
Right.
Yeah.
instead of like focusing on the issue.
Exactly.
And any of you want to talk about that maybe? Especially, yeah.
Maybe if I look at from the leadership point of view, actually in the global point of view, leadership is move from the charismatic leaders to become the visionary leaders or transformative leaders. But in Indonesia, unfortunately, we are still kind of in charismatic leaders
I see.
era. So
Can you tell
Yes.
your experience in Germany, right, about the leaders
Yeah,
thing? I think that's
yeah,
very
yeah.
interesting.
Yes. Because back then I think 2014 or 12, I think 2012, when I study in Germany. Back then in Indonesia, the new wave of the new leaders is coming, like Bu Risma, Pak Ridwan Kamil, right? Pak Anies, I think not really, but Pak Ridwan Kamil and Pak Jokowi back then, right, from Solo and moved to Jakarta. I think the new type of leaders, that the transformative leaders is coming, right? Then I talked to my friend in Germany that wow, Indonesia now we have many good leaders, and then they ask, okay, so tell us what is who are they? And then say, yeah, they are really care about the country. They are really professional. They are really clean, transparent. And then my friend
They
is
don't
waiting.
corrupt.
Okay, then where is the good things? Yeah, this is the good things, right? Right. Professional, thinking about the country. Yeah, but it is the default, right?
Like
Yeah,
that's
I mean,
what a leader is supposed to do.
this is the leader supposed to do, and give me the quality, and yes, for us Indonesian, it's really good leaders. And then they said, okay. Then back then I realized, okay, I think they have different concept of leaders.
I think not even different concept. I think
It's a bare
our-
minimum.
And
Like
different
our
level.
bar.
I
Yeah,
think
yeah,
they're
it's
the
so
minimum.
low.
Yeah, because oh my gosh, the Indonesian bar, like it's so low. Like our expectation is just on the
Yeah.
floor, kind of.
Because when we have transparent leader, we already like
Just don't
very
corrupt.
happy.
Just don't corrupt our
Wow,
money.
it's a good leader.
It's like if you've been in toxic relationships this whole time, the first time you have like a healthy relationship, oh yeah, he takes care of me, he cares about my feelings. Huh? Isn't that like just the bare
Isn't that
minimum?
the bare? Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, then I realized that the good leaders for the European, meaning that when you can bring the city, I don't know, can have like UNESCO award,
Right.
or become the cleanest city in the world, then
Yeah.
this is the quality and the achievement. But when we are only talking about the transparency, professional, it's like the bare minimum of the leaders.
Yeah.
So on that one, I think in the past 10 years at least, there is, I mean, if you want to see it from like an optimistic view, there's a shift, right? In terms of how the society is engaging with the issue.
Okay.
I don't think, like if you compare with 10 years ago, I think there's
Yeah.
more people who care
Yes.
today.
Yeah.
There's more avenues through which you can engage with issues. There's WIUI, there's like all these new like youth organizations that have tried to mobilize and like organize ourselves to the issue. And I think that's where Bijak Memilih comes in as as a way to facilitate. It feels like there's this growing sense of like I want to do something amongst the young people. There is a growing sense of where can I contribute and all that. So there is like there is supply. So like there needs to be a channel, I guess, like or a platform so that this new energy and how people want to contribute can be captured and can translate into something good. So like I think that's the spirit of Bijak Memilih, like knowing that there's already this sense. We want to be that platform for people to know immediately, oh, this is how I can vote, and then beyond the election date, how can I continue to care about these issues, right? So that they can understand better about the policy, what's been going on, what's the responsibilities of all these different institutions, yang DPR, what does the president do, all these different things.
But can we say that today actually is the second wave of the awakening era, maybe?
Oh, that's a bold claim.
It's
but
a big claim, sure.
Yeah, because when look at to the trend, right? Back then, when the first awakening time of our founding fathers actually is coming from the educated who are thinking, right? Because before we just accept what the Dutch give us, right? But then the wave of the education people coming, and then they said that I think we have a better form of the nation, right? So I think today is also we look at the pattern. I think this wave is coming in, like the young generation coming from abroad. They say that okay, in European. And yeah, like for example, my story, like okay, European have different different story about the leaders, and then the young generation in Indonesia thinking, okay, we don't know about it before, so then they are awakened, right?
Right, and I think what's interesting is because now we have social media. You don't have to go abroad to be able to have that quote unquote enlightenment, to be able to compare the condition of like your country with others, like different situation. And I kind of want to comment back, circling back to like your conversation about leaders in Germany. I think is it possible? It's of course my opinion, but is it possible that because our experiences and our bar is so low and so bad, is that the reason why we can't get past the individual? We're like, oh my gosh, please just be like an honest person, just be a person who cares about us. Yeah, so we are
It's
so
enough.
it's enough. You know? So we're still stuck on like the character because we've been hurt maybe.
Yeah, the
And so we
integrity,
can't even get past to their ideas and like the concrete tangible things that they can do.
Right. I think it's a little bit of that, but it's also a little bit of this culture of gossiping and like caring about minding people on a personal level so much.
That's true. That's true.
And this starts at the smallest unit, right? I mean, like with your friends, with your neighbors and whatnot. Like Indonesians, unfortunately, really like minding each other's business and talking about others and so on. That it's difficult. I mean, that it gets reflected in how we talk about the election, because like talking about presidential candidates on a personal level is much more interesting, or like fit to that culture of,
and
I heard that candidate did this, and easier. Oh, he did this. Oh, he wore this certain thing. It's such a it's like an easy conversation. It's much more rewarding maybe. Whereas when you go past that and you talk about the ideas, about the politics, it's more complicated, right? It's more nuanced. If you really want to engage in a meaningful ways, it's usually more nuanced. You need to read stuff. It's definitely we should like upgrade. That's why Bijak Memilih wants to upgrade, right, the conversation from the individuals or the gossips to actually the political ideas. What is the policy
content,
platform? The content.
So I think agree with the Indonesian culture. This is not about bad and good, right? But just the preference, right? Just about the culture. In Indonesia, let's say like when you want to be heard, let's say in your society or in your kampung, in your village, usually when you are, I don't know, maybe you often to help people, or you join the kerja bakti, you go with your neighbor, and then you will be heard in this society. So our culture is kind of
very communal.
Communal. So that's why this kind of charismatic leaders is because of this kind of culture. This is my personal opinion. So that's why in Indonesia, yes, we need to improve the conversation, but the roots of the culture, I think, still this kind of charismatic leader. So it's like the tokoh, the people, not really the character, not the vision. So
that's where this, we talked about this, the critical thinking and empathy really is important, right? Like as a skill, as a focus, because with critical thinking, whenever there's stream of information that tries to distract you to talk more about the personalities and all this gossip,
to ask,
to think more critically and ask, maybe I need to find more information. Or even when it talks about the content, when it talks about the policy ideas, the vision and mission, you don't just digest and believe immediately the first information that you get, but you really check with their past records, right? Like because it's very easy for these candidates, both the parliamentary as well as the presidential candidates, to make claims about what they want to do, because there's really no way to keep them accountable. I mean, it's literally just promises. Then you elect them. They'll have different incentives next time. They'll have an incentive to not deliver on everything. So it's really important to think critically, and that's why, again, promoting Bijak Memilih, we want to help, right? Like with the right information to check whether some of those claims are correct. But what about empathy? That's the other part of the coin as well. How do you think?
I think it really plays into how you present the information, because I think going back to critical thinking before empathy, I think a lot of people don't realize, or maybe don't think of it this way, but for me, I think critical thinking is a muscle that you need to train. Like nobody's born thinking critically. It's not the natural way for our brain to think. Like gossiping is more natural for us actually, and that's why it's easier. And I think it goes back to like the quality of education in Indonesia. A lot of people are not used to doing that, and it is supposed to be hard and sometimes like boring, but it can get easier. But then again, like going back, not everyone has the luxury of time to train that muscle and to learn that skill. And therefore, I think empathy comes in, for example, if we want to help those who have maybe less time to understand more. Like empathy is knowing how other people think or feel. And so maybe we can try, by empathy, we can present and package information in a way that is easier to understand, that is more appealing, that will help them digest the information without them having to do all of that hard work that requires so many times. I think empathy is very important, because anyone can just spout out like hard facts, right? Oh, the facts are da 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 this. You should do this. This is the problem. Is this. But nobody's gonna listen.
Yeah.
But with empathy, like you need to understand that sometimes people don't just sometimes people don't just need facts, they also need like you to meet them there emotionally too.
Yeah.
And so I
Yeah,
think that's where
definitely.
like definitely critical thinking and empathy should play hand in hand, and I think that can create a sort of creativity in
Yeah.
how you do politics and how you
Yeah.
do discussion, stuff like that.
At least we have time to pause and questioning. It is enough, I think, because back to this culture, right? For example, when I really believe in Afu,
Yeah.
because Afu is really a nice girl and she always
So
tell the
cool,
truth, so
very
cool.
fashionable.
Yeah, and she become the candidate. I just like 100% believe on her. But
Yeah.
actually,
Anything that she does is
anything
great.
She is 100% correct.
Right.
But at least we need to stop. Okay, when Afu talk about economic, maybe when Afu talk about environment, maybe yes. But when Afu talking about mechanical engineer, then maybe I need to wait. Yes, Afu is really smart girl, but mechanical engineer is not her.
Her
topic,
her,
right?
her expertise.
So this kind of critical thinking, we need to have this in our mind, that we need to stop, pause, and question and thinking. Okay, this candidate telling the truth or not?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and on empathy, I think also as we're having the conversation, so first of all, everything that we're talking about is not a judgment on how like Indonesian
Yeah.
society is,
No,
right?
no,
It's
no.
more
Yes,
like we
yes,
think that we
yes.
can do better. I mean, it's a self-reflection as well
Yeah.
on like how I used to
Yeah.
not care and all of that. And I think that same empathy needs to be extended when we have all these political conversations as well with each
Yep.
other, right? Because I think it's very easy, even when we started talking about the content. I mean, look at all the polarized countries, the U.S. back in like during Trump period, or like
period,
even
yeah.
now, right? It's very easy to get even more polarized and think that
Yeah.
we're so different because you're
Yeah,
pro-life,
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
pro-choice, or like you're pro whatever. If you come from a place of just wanting to be right, and like it's more about, okay, these are my values, I want my political candidates to support this, and therefore I will vote this. But really, like the political process is also a discourse, right? It takes conversations. Like
Yeah.
we will always be polarized, and there will always be a spectrum of positions.
Right.
Like there's no nation in the world where everybody agrees on one particular policy. There will always be differences. So I think it's a matter of arriving at like a mutual understanding, where instead of just seeing that how we're different from one another, it's about coming together and thinking, this is a solution that might not be perfect for everyone, but this is the best that we can have,
Yeah.
right? So so that you don't end up breaking families, and
Yeah.
because it's happened in the past.
In WhatsApp group.
Without empathy.
Oh,
Yeah.
I think the keyword there is like learn to think of anything, or maybe not anything, but issues in a more nuanced way,
Yes.
in a more nuanced, deeper, and more complex way. Because I think it's very easy for us to fall into a this or that, like the
Yes.
one extreme or another. Like, oh, is this bill good or bad? You know, is this law that was just passed good or bad? Like, tell me, should I accept this or should I resist this? Because usually it's yes and no, right?
Yes.
Okay, a bill can have great articles and have really questionable articles, and like a regulation can be both good and bad at the same time. Because I think a lot of us need. I think if we can think in a more nuanced and complex way, I think it will offer us a deeper conversation in
It's even
political discourse.
the new and renewable energy bill.
Yeah.
Once you get into, it's supposed to be like a
It's
nice
a
bill.
it's
but
a
like
contradiction.
renewable,
A lot of
but when you read
contradictory.
the articles, it's something else. So yes.
Anyway, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so I think in closing this podcast, I think we've talked a lot about like Bijak Memilih and the state of democracy in Indonesia, why we care, what can be improved. But Bijak Memilih is not just our movement, right? But
Yeah.
we want this to be, it's an experiment. We want this to be the movement of a lot of people. So maybe can you guys share about like how others can be involved? What can they do? Haji, maybe?
Okay. I'm still thinking. Okay, yeah. That's why we call it a movement, right?
Yeah.
And so movement is not about only like 1 or 3 person in
Exactly.
here. Movement is about the country, the generation, the young generation. So when we again learn from the history, when this movement catch up by the young generation, and the young generation believe in it, and they are be part of this movement, then it can change something.
Yeah.
But if only like 3 of us, or maybe the team here, maybe 20, 50 people, believe me, it will not change anything.
Absolutely.
So that's why we really need the participation of the young generation, regardless your background or what your community or whatsoever. When you believe that Indonesian should have a better leaders, we need to choose wisely, and we need to have a better government in 2024, especially because we are now close to the election. Then do something, and one of them is be part of the Bijak Memilih movement.
Yeah, and I think also all movements basically start with an idea, right? Like, I think the number one thing you can do, or basically after listening to this podcast, is if you buy into the idea, you're already part of the movement.
Yeah.
If you agree with us that politics should move beyond the gossips into discussing about the content, then you're already part of the movement. Well, next is, if you believe in that idea and want to, do more, well, get more people to open the website, right? Like get people to come and check out bijakmemilih.id, and even more, like once more people are more informed about what they should care about in the election and how they can vote. Next is you can even organize your own kind of Bijak Memilih conversation, or we call it like BMX. Like if you're
BMX,
part of a community organization, BEM, OSIS, all of that, and you want to organize your own activities, feel free to start organizing that. Contact us and seeing how we can help you organize your own Bijak Memilih forum event. And that's it, and change the conversation.
Right. Yeah, and I think I'd just like to add how all we can do is present you guys with the information. We'll try really hard to make it like as easy as possible, as convenient as possible. But in the end, like, it's up to each and every one of us to whether you guys want to open it, want to read it, want to share it, want to use the information to actually act on it, maybe to vote, maybe to not vote, or maybe to like do something or to learn more about an issue. But ultimately, I think it's the decision of each and every one of us, the individual, what to do with the information. And you can definitely propose to us, right? Like a very creative collaboration proposal maybe, or something like that, because we're definitely very open, since it's a movement and want as many people to participate in this as possible. Well,
awesome.
I think that concludes our conversation. Thank you so much,
Thank
Afu,
you.
Aji.
Thanks, Abi.
And thank you for you guys who have watched. I'll see you in the next episode. Bye-bye.
Bye.